She opened her front door and knew instantly something was wrong. It was not fear that hit first, it was the smell. Warm butter, heavy spice, something sweet and sharp drifting through her hallway like it belonged there. Not her food, not her kitchen, not her house anymore if the air could be trusted. Lenora froze with one hand still gripping her keys. The evening outside had been cold and ordinary. Inside, everything felt claimed by someone else, and before she even saw a person, she felt the insult. Have you ever walked into your own home and felt unwelcome there? That feeling changes something inside you forever. She stepped in slowly and closed the door without sound. 42 years in that house had trained her ears well. Every floorboard had a voice she recognized. Every draught had its own path. Every small sound belonged somewhere. Tonight, nothing sounded familiar anymore. Metal clinked softly from the kitchen. A drawer shut upstairs. Then heavy footsteps crossed the second floor. A man's footsteps. Confident ones, not sneaking, not apologizing, walking like rent had been paid already. Lenora's chest tightened. Only one person could have allowed this. Her son, Callum. The name arrived in her mind like bad weather. She set her purse down on the hallway table. Even that felt wrong. The table held a chipped red mug she had never seen before. There was a burn mark near the handle. Someone had placed it there casually, like trash can become furniture if left long enough. Her coat rack held a leather jacket too large for Callum. Men's boots rested near the wall, mud dried beneath them onto her floor. No one had even wiped them. That small detail angered her more than expected. Disrespect always enters through little doors first. She moved toward the kitchen. Then she saw the woman, barefoot on Lenora's rug, standing at the stove, stirring a saucepan with one hand while humming quietly to herself. She did not look startled. She did not look guilty. She looked settled. The woman turned and smiled politely. "You must be Lenora." That was the first sentence she said. No apology, no explanation, just recognition, like hosts greet guests. Lenora stared at her. Mid-30s perhaps, sharp cheekbones, hair tied back loosely, a blouse too expensive to trust, eyes that measured rooms quickly, the kind of eyes that rearrange shelves without asking permission. "Who are you?" Lenora asked. Her voice came out calm. That pleased her. The woman wiped her hands on Lenora's dish towel. "It's Sabine," she said lightly. "Callum said you'd be home later." Later, as if arrival schedules had been discussed, as if the homeowner was now off script. Lenora did not blink. She simply took in every detail. Her porcelain bowl sat on the counter. She never left it there. A bag of rice stood open. Her spice drawer had been pulled halfway out. Someone had searched it already. Someone had learned the kitchen enough to cook. That required comfort. Comfort required permission or arrogance. Sometimes both wear the same face. From upstairs came another thud, then the scrape of furniture. Lenora's eyes lifted toward the ceiling. "Who is upstairs?" she asked. Sabine tasted the sauce first before answering. "My brother Mercer," she said. "He's just getting settled." Getting settled. The phrase passed through Lenora like ice water. Not visiting, not stopping by, getting settled. She turned and walked past Sabine without asking leave. The staircase waited in silence. Her hand touched the rail polished by decades. At least one thing in the house still remembered her. Each step groaned softly beneath her weight. Halfway up, she saw the study door open. Harold's room, her late husband's room. No one entered there without invitation. No one. She climbed faster than her knees preferred. At the doorway stood a large man with broad shoulders, back turned, holding one of Harold's vinyl records in his hands, flipping through them lazily, like a shopper browsing old merchandise. Lenora stopped cold. The room smelled wrong. Synthetic cologne and open window air. Harold's room used to smell of cedar, dust and paper. Now it smelled temporary and careless. The man spoke before turning. "Nice place," he said. Then he looked over his shoulder slowly. Mercer, late 40s maybe, thick wrists, heavy jaw, the posture of a man used to taking space first. He glanced at Lenora once. No embarrassment, no urgency, no apology. Just mild irritation at being interrupted. "Put that back," Lenora said. Mercer slid the record halfway into its sleeve, not fully, as if doing her a favor. "Didn't know it mattered," he said. "We'll be here a while." There it was. No masks now, no confusion, no misunderstanding. They had moved in, and her son had opened the door for them. Lenora stepped inside the study. Papers on Harold's desk had shifted slightly. One drawer remained an inch open. The lamp had been moved. A coaster sat where none had ever sat before. Tiny violations everywhere. Some wounds arrive as scratches. She turned away before anger spoke for her. At 73, she knew anger often wastes useful energy. Control was worth more. She descended the stairs slowly. Sabine had already plated food onto 3 dishes. 3, not 4. Interesting. "You're just in time," Sabine said pleasantly. "We made plenty." "We?" Lenora placed her keys on the table, the same table where she once balanced budgets, signed school forms, paid Callum's debts more than once, always temporary problems, always one last rescue. "How long?" Lenora asked. Sabine tilted her head. "I'm sorry? How long has my son been planning this?" That landed harder than shouting would have. Sabine set the spoon down carefully. "You should really speak with him. I intend to." Lenora walked to the hallway cabinet. The small wooden doors stood slightly open. She never left them open. Inside were folders, envelopes, keys, records. Everything looked present. Nothing looked untouched. Her property file had been moved forward, insurance papers bent at one corner. The envelope containing spare keys was missing. Now certainty arrived fully. This was prepared, not impulsive kindness, not emergency shelter, a plan. Behind her, Sabine spoke softer now. "We're not trying to upset you." "You already have," Lenora replied. Then, outside, tires rolled over gravel, a car door shut firmly. She knew that sound immediately. Callum. Once that sound meant groceries, or laughter, or another request wrapped in affection. Tonight it meant justification. The front door opened without knocking. Of course it did. "Mom," Callum called casually. Then he saw her. His sentence died halfway out. For 1 second, his face told the truth, shock. Then it reorganized itself into charm. "There you are," he said. "I was going to call." Lenora looked at him fully, 46 years old, still avoiding eye contact when guilty, still carrying excuses like spare change. You already acted. Calling would have been manners. He exhaled and shut the door behind him. Let's not make this bigger than it is. That sentence had followed him through life. Dropped jobs, late payments, broken promises, minor disasters asking to stay minor. There are strangers in my house, Lenora said. They're not strangers, he replied quickly. Sabine and Mercer are good people. They are strangers to me. That answer hit him strangely hard, not because it was false, because it was accurate. He softened his tone. They needed a place for a little while. You have room here. You're not using most of it anyway. There, the real language, not home, square footage, unused capacity, assets awaiting reassignment. Lenora studied him. Somewhere along the years, gratitude had left his face. Entitlement had learned the shape instead. You searched my cabinet, Lenora said. He blinked too slowly. I needed the spare keys. You went through my documents. It wasn't like that. Upstairs, Mercer crossed the floor again loudly. No reason to hide now. In the kitchen, Sabine called out brightly, "Dinner's ready," like they were family already, like she was hosting reconciliation in a borrowed life. Lenora never took her eyes off Callum. You gave them keys. Yes, you let them move belongings inside. It's temporary. You let him enter your father's study. Callum's jaw tightened. You're focusing on the wrong part. I'm trying to help people. Help them from your own apartment. It's complicated. Your lease always becomes complicated when bills arrive. He flinched. Good. Truth still had nerve endings. He lowered his voice. You raised me to care. I raised you to ask first. Silence spread through the room. Even Sabine stopped moving. Lenora asked the answer already waiting inside her. Did you tell them this house was yours to offer? Callum did not answer. That silence changed everything, because mistakes defend themselves quickly, intentions pause and calculate, and Callum was calculating now. Lenora felt something settle inside her. Not sadness, not rage, clarity. The most dangerous calm arrives after betrayal becomes obvious. She looked around her kitchen slowly. Her kitchen. 3 extra plates, strange food, a red mug, a son who thought resistance was temporary, 2 guests who thought confidence creates rights, and beneath it all, a deeper wound. They believed she would adjust, that older women absorb theft quietly if spoken to politely. They did not know her anymore. Lenora pulled out a chair and sat down, not because she surrendered, because generals sometimes sit before battle. Callum relaxed too quickly. That was his oldest weakness. He mistook silence for agreement. Good, now we can talk reasonably. Lenora folded her hands neatly. Yes, she said, now we can. And for the first time that evening, Callum should have been afraid. Callum smiled the moment she sat down. That smile told Lenora everything she needed. He thought the storm had passed already. He thought her silence meant surrender again. Some people mistake calmness for weakness every time. Those people rarely notice danger arriving slowly. Sabine placed forks beside the plates carefully. Mercer leaned against the hallway wall, watching everyone. He looked less relaxed now. Not nervous, just alert enough to notice tension shifting. Lenora sat at the head of the table, her place. No one had taken that chair yet. Interesting. Even intruders understand certain symbols instinctively. Callum lowered himself across from her confidently. He steepled his fingers like a businessman. Lenora nearly laughed at that performance. He always played competent before things collapsed. "Let's be practical," Callum began softly. That word again, practical, the favourite perfume of selfish people everywhere. Lenora looked at him steadily. "Speak clearly," she said. "No slogans tonight." Sabine paused beside the stove. Mercer's eyes shifted toward Callum. Even they wanted the real version now. Callum cleared his throat once. They had a housing issue suddenly. "What issue?" Lenora asked immediately. "It's complicated." "Then simplify it." He frowned slightly. Sabine answered before he could. "The landlord sold the building unexpectedly." Mercer added nothing. That told Lenora more than words could. Truth usually arrives complete. Lies often need volunteers. "And your brother?" Lenora asked Sabine. "He was staying with me temporarily." Temporary. That word was getting overworked tonight. Lenora nodded slowly. So 2 temporary people needed 1 permanent house. No one replied. Callum leaned forward. "You're twisting everything into conflict." "No," Lenora said calmly. "I'm untangling it." The room went quiet again. She had learned something with age. Silence makes guilty people speak eventually. Callum could never bear long silence. Sure enough, he filled it quickly. "You live alone, Mum. There's space here. You don't need all these rooms." There it was again. Need. As if ownership expires when others feel inconvenience. Lenora folded one napkin edge precisely. "When did my life become inventory?" Callum exhaled hard. "That's not fair. Neither is entering my home uninvited." Mercer finally stepped away from the wall. He took a chair without asking permission. That small act burned brighter than shouting. People reveal themselves through casual trespass. He sat wide, comfortable, territorial. Lenora watched him once, then looked away. Dismissal unsettles certain men faster than anger. Sabine carried a dish to the table, rice fragrant with saffron and butter. She set it down gracefully. "You should eat something first," she said. "No," Lenora replied. "I prefer appetite with trust." Sabine's mouth tightened slightly. Good manners can crack too. Callum tried again. "We were going to discuss everything properly." "With lease papers?" Lenora asked quietly. 3 heads moved at once. "There, caught." Callum froze first. Sabine looked sharply toward the counter. Mercer cursed under his breath softly. Lenora had not seen papers yet. She had guessed, and guesses become weapons when delivered confidently. Callum recovered badly. "There are no lease papers." "You answered too fast," Lenora said. Then she stood. No hurry, no drama. She walked toward the kitchen counter. A neat stack of printed pages waited there, half hidden under grocery receipts. Callum moved instantly. That's nothing, which meant everything. Lenora picked them up before he reached them. He stopped short. Sabine stepped backward once. Mercer stayed seated, watching like a spectator now. Lenora looked down at the first page, her address printed at the top. Below it, typed sections, occupancy terms, shared utilities, duration estimates, guest room allocation, adjustment period. Adjustment period. She almost admired the language, polite words built to disguise theft. Then she turned another page. There was a blank signature line, her printed name beneath it, prepared in advance, no conversation intended, only presentation. Callum rubbed his forehead. It was just a draft. For what? To make things organized. For whom?
He had no answer ready. Sabine spoke carefully now. We thought structure would reduce stress. Mine or yours? Lenora asked. Sabine looked down. Mercer laughed once under his breath. Not amused, more like appreciation for a clean strike. Lenora placed the pages back down neatly. She hated disorder, even in betrayal. Then she looked at her son. How long have you planned this? A few weeks, he answered accidentally. The room felt that mistake immediately. Callum closed his eyes briefly. Too late. A few weeks. Weeks of keys copied. Weeks of discussions. Weeks of deciding around her. Weeks of assuming her consent unnecessary. Lenora remembered childhood birthdays she paid for, college debt she covered, car repairs, late rent, medical bills, every rescue labeled temporary gratitude, yet entitlement had grown where thanks should have. You used my trust as a tool, she said. Callum's face hardened now. I used common sense. There it was. Whenever selfish plans weaken, contempt appears. You can't manage this house forever. Maintenance is expensive. It's too much for one person. You're getting older. Each sentence came smoother than the last. Practiced. He had rehearsed concern already. Sabine remained still as glass. Mercer watched Callum with new interest. Lenora understood suddenly. This was not spontaneous housing trouble. This was future planning. Her future, minus her authority. She asked softly, what was next? No one answered. After shared rooms? Still nothing. After adjusted living arrangements? Callum looked away. That movement told her enough. There had been another stage, perhaps smaller space for her, perhaps downstairs only, perhaps assisted living brochures later, maybe all of it. A house can be stolen gradually, one reasonable suggestion at a time. Lenora felt grief rise, then settle. Not for the house, for the son she kept defending. She had mistaken dependence for love too long. Callum mistook that history for leverage now. Mom, he said softer, you're making villains out of people trying to help. No, she answered, I'm recognizing people helping themselves. Mercer stood this time. All right, he said evenly, let's cool down. Interesting. The largest man wanted peace now, because certainty had left the room. Sabine tried another angle. We can leave tomorrow morning if needed.
If needed, Lenora repeated. Sabine swallowed. I mean, if that helps everyone. Everyone. Always everyone. Never the owner. Callum's patience snapped visibly. This is exactly why I did it first. The sentence hung there naked. Sabine closed her eyes briefly. Mercer stared at the floor once. Lenora said nothing. He had confessed more than intended. I knew you'd say no, so I handled it. Handled it. Like paperwork, like plumbing, like an elderly mother becoming obstacle management. Lenora rose slowly from her chair. Callum stood too. Mom, don't dramatize this. She almost smiled. Dramatic would be screaming, she said. This is administration. She walked past them into the hallway. No one moved for a moment. Then footsteps followed behind her anxiously. She opened the cabinet doors again. Inside lay folders, deeds, insurance, utility bills, the spine of her life organized carefully. She removed 3 folders and 1 envelope. Callum stopped several feet away. What are you doing? Correcting an assumption. Sabine stood at the kitchen doorway, Mercer beside her now. For the first time since arrival, they looked like guests. Lenora turned back toward them all. She held the documents against her chest calmly. You believed I would negotiate ownership tonight. No, she said quietly. What happens next will be much simpler. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. The room changed the moment her phone appeared. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough for truth to show itself. Confidence drained first from Sabine's face. Mercer straightened without realizing he had done it. Callum moved fastest of all. Mom, stop being ridiculous. Ridiculous, the favorite word of people losing control. Lenora unlocked her screen slowly. No shaking hands, no trembling breath, only precision. Callum stepped closer to the table. We can talk this through. We have talked, Lenora said. You simply preferred your own answers. He reached toward her wrist. She lifted one eyebrow only. That tiny gesture stopped him cold. Even now, some childhood instincts survived. Do not touch me, she said quietly. Mercer glanced at Callum sideways. Interesting look. Not support, judgment. Sabine tried a softer route quickly. There's no reason to escalate things. Lenora looked at her. You arrived in my kitchen barefoot. You crossed escalation hours ago. Sabine had no reply ready. Lenora scrolled through contacts calmly. Locksmith, attorney, police. She paused intentionally where everyone could see. Callum's breathing changed. He hated uncertainty more than consequences. You wouldn't call the police, he said. The sentence sounded hopeful, not confident. Lenora met his eyes. You still think this is negotiation. She pressed another contact first. Not police, a local locksmith. Speaker mode on. The call rang twice. A man answered sleepily. Evening, City Lock Services. Lenora spoke clearly. I need every exterior lock changed tonight. Callum's face lost color immediately. Sabine inhaled sharply. Mercer muttered something low and unpleasant. The locksmith asked for address details. Lenora gave them calmly. He quoted an arrival window. 40 minutes. She confirmed and ended the call. Silence followed like weather after thunder. Callum stared at her. You're changing the locks? Yes. You can't do that. I already did.
That answer struck harder than shouting ever could. Mercer folded his arms again, this time defensive, not dominant. Sabine looked toward the hallway instinctively, already thinking exit paths. Good. Callum recovered with anger now. This is my mother's house, too. Lenora tilted her head slightly. An extraordinary sentence, she said. He blinked. You know what I mean. No, she replied. I know exactly what you mean. He paced once across the kitchen. Old habit. Movement helped him simulate momentum. You're overreacting because you hate change. No, Lenora said. I dislike trespass disguised as progress. Mercer almost smiled at that. He hid it badly. Sabine noticed him and snapped toward him, not helping. Mercer shrugged. I didn't ask to be in family therapy. That crack widened the room instantly. Sabine shot her brother a warning glance. Too late. Fractures once visible spread quickly. Lenora moved to the counter. She stacked the lease pages neatly, then slid them into a folder. Evidence belonged together. Callum watched every motion now. What are you doing with those? Protecting documents from further creativity. Sabine spoke carefully again. We never meant anything dishonest. Lenora looked at her for several seconds, long enough to make truth uncomfortable. You arrived with bags unpacked. You cooked with my groceries. You watched forged plans printed beside my sink. Choose a stronger word than meant. Sabine's eyes dropped again. Mercer finally spoke plainly. Callum said you'd come around. There it was, the central belief exposed in one sentence. Not ask, not hope, come around, meaning resistance was temporary and irrational. Lenora nodded once. Thank you for honesty. Callum rounded on Mercer angrily. Would you stop talking? Mercer stepped forward one pace. Then stop lying badly. The two men stared hard. Sabine moved between them verbally first. Enough. But enough had arrived too late. Lenora watched them like weather patterns. They were no longer a unit. Excellent. She had learned years ago something useful. Pressure reveals alliances built only on convenience. Callum turned back to her, desperate now. Mom, listen to me carefully. Whenever he used that tone, manipulation followed. She waited. If police get involved, records happen, reports happen. It creates problems for everyone. Everyone again. Never justice, never right or wrong, only inconvenience to schemers. Lenora answered softly. Consequences often feel inconvenient. He slammed his palm onto the table. The plates rattled sharply. Sabine flinched. Mercer's jaw tightened. Lenora did not move at all. Stop treating me like some criminal. No, she said. I'm treating you like an adult. That hit him deepest, because adulthood means ownership of actions. He pointed toward the staircase angrily. They needed somewhere safe. Then why is Mercer in Harold's study? Callum froze again. No answer. Mercer answered instead. Quiet room, he said. Lenora looked at him. Try hotels next time. He actually laughed once, short and genuine. Even Sabine nearly smiled despite herself. Callum hated that moment. You could see it plainly. Control hates shared laughter during collapse. He changed strategy again. Fine. Guilt. You'd humiliate your own son publicly. Lenora's eyes sharpened. No, you humiliated yourself privately first. The room went still enough to hear breathing. Callum whispered now. You always liked proving me wrong. There it was, the child beneath the man. Not remorse, resentment. Lenora felt sadness touch her briefly, then pass. I loved rescuing you. That was my mistake. He looked struck. Real strikes often come gently. Sabine moved toward her handbag, subtle, practical. She was preparing for departure already. Mercer noticed and nodded once to himself. Callum saw none of it, still fighting the wrong battle. "You think this makes you strong?" he asked bitterly. Lenora considered that carefully. "No," she said, "it makes me late." He frowned. Late to what? Late to boundaries I should have set years ago. Those words landed on all three of them, especially Sabine. She knew then the night was ending differently. A sound came from outside, car tires slowing on gravel, then stopping. No one spoke. Another car door closed. Mercer looked toward the front entrance immediately. Sabine gripped her bag strap tighter. Callum's throat moved once. Lenora placed her phone on the table, screen facing upward, calm and ready. Then came the knock, firm, measured, official enough to change posture instantly. Callum whispered harshly, "You actually called them too?" Lenora met his eyes without blinking. "I said consequences were next."
The second knock came harder than the first. Not violent, just certain. The kind of knock that assumes entry soon. No one in the kitchen moved immediately. Sabine stood frozen beside her bag. Mercer's jaw worked once. Callum looked at Lenora like she had betrayed him. Interesting thought, as if betrayal had started tonight with her. "Open the door," Lenora said calmly. Callum did not move. "Now." Her voice stayed quiet. That made it stronger. He walked to the hallway slowly. Every step carried disbelief. He opened the front door halfway first. 2 officers stood outside, calm faces, professional posture, used to lies before dinner. "Evening," one officer said. "We received a call." Callum forced a thin smile instantly. "Yeah, misunderstanding, family issue." "No," Lenora said from behind him. One word, clear enough to redirect the room. Both officers looked past Callum toward her. She stepped forward carrying her folder. "I'm the homeowner," she said. "I made the call." The older officer nodded once. "Ma'am, can you explain what happened?" Lenora did not rush. Truth never needs speed. "My son used a spare key. He brought 2 people into my home. They moved belongings inside without my permission. They refused to leave." Silence followed every sentence cleanly. Callum jumped in immediately. "That's not accurate. I'm her son. I've had access for years." The younger officer asked calmly, "Do you live here currently?" Callum hesitated. That pause said enough already. "No," he admitted finally. The officer nodded slightly. "Then access is not residency." Mercer muttered under his breath. Sabine closed her eyes briefly. Lenora almost admired the precision. One sentence had removed half Callum's argument. The older officer stepped inside politely. "May we come in?" "Yes," Lenora answered. "It's my house." Another useful sentence. They entered. The air changed instantly. Not louder, heavier. Authority often weighs more than volume. The younger officer noticed bags near the stairs, shoes by the wall, extra coats, 3 plates on the table. He noticed everything without staring at anything. Callum began speaking fast now. "They had an emergency situation. I was helping them temporarily. We were going to discuss details tonight." Lenora handed over the folder quietly. Inside were deed copies, utility bills, insurance documents, and the lease draft pages. The officer opened them one by one. Callum's face changed colour again now. Sabine looked away completely now. Mercer crossed his arms tighter. The officer lifted the lease pages. "Who prepared these?" he asked. No one answered immediately. That silence was almost elegant. Finally Callum spoke. "It was just a draft." "With her signature line?" No answer. "Using her address?" Still none. The younger officer glanced at Lenora. "Did you authorize these documents?" "No." Simple truths are powerful things. The officer nodded, then turned toward the others. "All right, if the homeowner wants you to leave, you need to leave." Sabine stepped forward quickly. "We were invited." "By someone without authority," the officer replied. Mercer's patience snapped first. "This is ridiculous. We didn't break in." The older officer remained calm. "No one said break in. We said leave now." Mercer stared at him, then looked away first. That told everyone who won. Callum tried one last emotional play. "You're doing this to your own son." Lenora faced him fully. "No, I'm doing this because of my son." That landed harder than anything all evening. Even Sabine looked at Callum differently then. Not as partner, not as problem solver, as liability. The younger officer gestured politely toward the stairs. "You can collect belongings now." "We'll wait." No debate, no speeches, just procedure. Mercer stomped upstairs angrily. Those heavy steps sounded different now. Not ownership, eviction. Sabine moved faster than anyone expected. She grabbed her bag, jacket, charger, purse. Efficiency returns quickly when fantasy dies. Callum remained standing in the kitchen, still stunned by consequences existing outside arguments. Lenora began clearing plates calmly. The officers noticed. One almost smiled. "You don't need to do that now, ma'am." "Yes," she said softly, "I do." She carried Sabine's plate to the sink, then Mercer's, then the serving dish. Removing what did not belong had become ritual now. Callum watched her helplessly. "You could have talked to me." Lenora set down a fork carefully. "We did talk. You only listened to yourself." He opened his mouth, closed it again. Nothing useful remained there. Mercer returned carrying 2 bags and a box, sweating slightly, angrier than before, less dangerous than before too. He brushed past the table, avoided eye contact with everyone. Sabine followed him toward the door. Before leaving, she stopped near Lenora. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. Lenora studied her face. "No," she replied. "You're disappointed." Sabine said nothing after that. She left. Mercer followed with another muttered curse. Now only Callum remained inside. The silence around him looked unfamiliar. The officer turned politely. "Sir, you need to leave as well." Callum laughed once in disbelief. "This is insane. I'm her son." Lenora answered before anyone else could. "Yes, that was your advantage. You used it." The officer repeated himself. "You need to go now." Callum looked around the kitchen slowly. The table, the cabinets, the walls that had always accepted him. For the first time they did not. He held up a key angrily. "My spare key." Lenora extended her hand. He stared at her, then placed it there. Small metal, heavy meaning. She closed her fingers around it. "Anything else?" the officer asked. Callum shook his head once. He moved to the front door, stopped halfway, looked back at her. "You'll regret this." Lenora met his eyes steadily. "No, I'll remember it." That was worse. He knew it too. Then he left. The door closed behind him firmly. No slam, no drama, just ending. The officers remained another moment. The older one asked gently, "Would you like us to wait while you secure things?" "Yes," Lenora said. "A locksmith is already coming." Smart answer. Smart woman. The younger officer nodded respectfully. Outside, car doors shut again. Voices faded. Tires rolled away. Lenora stood in her kitchen surrounded by silence. Real silence this time. No strangers upstairs. No false concern at her table. No son managing her future. Only the clock on the wall ticking honestly. She placed the recovered key beside the sink, then looked at the officers. "Thank you," she said. They nodded and stepped outside. When the door closed again, the house exhaled with her.
The silence did not arrive all at once. It settled room by room, first in the hallway near the door, then across the kitchen tiles slowly, then upstairs where heavy footsteps had ruled earlier. Now nothing moved there, nothing opened, nothing claimed space it had never earned. Lenora stood still and listened carefully. After a lifetime in that house, she knew the sound of peace. It was softer than people expect. The porch light glowed through the glass. Outside, the officers spoke quietly near their car. Inside, the clock resumed importance again. Tick, tick, tick. Simple sounds become precious after chaos leaves. Lenora walked to the front door first. She locked it once, then again out of habit. Then she rested her hand there briefly. A door can feel different overnight. Tonight, this one felt honest again. She turned back toward the kitchen slowly. 3 chairs remained pushed awkwardly outward. 3 glasses stood sweating onto coasters. Sabine's perfume still lingered faintly. Mercer's cologne clung near the stairs. Callum's frustration remained everywhere like smoke. She opened the windows immediately. Cold evening air entered without permission. That was acceptable. Fresh air asks nothing permanent. It moved through curtains and cabinets. It carried away spice, perfume, tension. Lenora began clearing the table carefully. No slamming dishes, no dramatic gestures. Anger had already served its purpose. Now order would do the rest. She stacked plates neatly by size, forks together, knives together, glasses rinsed and placed upside down. Every small act repaired something invisible. Homes are restored through tiny decisions first. She found the chipped red mug last. The cigarette burn near the handle remained ugly. She held it for several seconds. Someone else had brought it casually. Someone else had expected it to stay. Lenora walked to the trash bin, dropped it inside. No hesitation. Some objects carry the wrong energy forever. She wiped the counter clean afterward, then cleaned it again. The lease pages waited beside the folder. She read them more carefully now. Shared occupancy, contribution expectations, adjustment timeline, suggested room changes, alternative future accommodations, for her. There it was plainly,
not hidden, not accidental. Eventually they planned to reduce her life politely. One room first, then fewer decisions, then gratefulness expected for displacement. Lenora felt grief rise unexpectedly then, not for the papers, for the years behind them. How long had Callum viewed her kindly face as leverage? How many rescues had taught the wrong lesson? She sat at the table at last, her table, hands folded, eyes on nothing. Memory arrived without invitation. Callum at age 7 laughing with scraped knees. Callum at 14 lying badly about money. Callum at 25 promising change sincerely. Callum at 30 asking for one more chance. Callum tonight holding entitlement like inheritance. Love can become dangerous when boundaries disappear. That truth hurt most of all. Highlights flashed across the front wall outside. The locksmith had arrived. Lenora stood and opened the door. A tired man with a toolbox nodded politely. "Late call," he said. "Important one," Lenora replied. He smiled faintly and entered. The officers were gone now. Good. This part belonged to her. He examined each lock carefully. Front door, back door, garage side entry, basement latch. He worked with efficient hands and no questions. Professionals often understand privacy instinctively. Metal clicked, screws turned, old cylinders came free, new ones replaced them, fresh keys cut on a small machine outside. The sounds were oddly comforting. Security has its own music. When he finished, he handed her envelopes. Only these copies exist now. Lenora liked that sentence very much. She paid him generously. He thanked her and left quietly. Again the house was hers alone, completely this time. She placed one new key in her pocket, another in a hidden drawer upstairs. The remaining envelope she sealed immediately, then moved it somewhere no one knew, not even family, especially family. Upstairs waited unfinished business. Lenora climbed the staircase slowly. No rush now. Her knees complained less than earlier. Funny how burdens affect the body. She entered Harold's study first. The window remained slightly open. She closed it firmly. Cold evening air stopped there. The record Mercer had handled sat crooked. She slid it back perfectly aligned, then touched Harold's desk once gently. "I handled it," she said softly, "not to a ghost, to memory itself." The room felt warmer afterward. She turned off the lamp. Next came her bedroom, drawers slightly disturbed, medication bottle moved backward, one closet hanger misplaced, tiny violations still visible everywhere. She corrected each one patiently, bottle centered, drawer aligned, hanger restored, bedspread smoothed, windows checked, chest at the foot of bed opened, letters still there, photographs untouched. Good. She locked the chest anyway. Trust had become expensive tonight. Back downstairs she made tea, simple black tea, no saffron, no cardamom, no borrowed flavors. Steam rose gently into the kitchen. She carried the cup to the table, sat in the chair no one else deserved. Outside, a distant dog barked once. Somewhere a car passed. Life continued without caring about drama. That comforted her too. Her phone buzzed suddenly. Callum, one message only. "You embarrassed me tonight." Lenora stared at the screen calmly, then deleted it unread twice in spirit. No reply. Some people call accountability embarrassment. She set the phone face down. Tomorrow would bring calls, perhaps, excuses, anger, relatives with partial information, stories rewritten in Callum's favour. Let them come. She was done defending herself against facts. Morning would also bring practical tasks: change alarm code, update legal paperwork, rewrite emergency contacts, meet an attorney, review inheritance plans. Consequences should be organised properly. That thought gave her surprising peace. She finished the tea slowly, then arose and washed the cup. Only one cup tonight. That detail pleased her deeply. Before bed she walked through each room once more. Living room secure, back door secure, windows latched, study closed, hallway clear, kitchen clean, house breathing normally again. At the staircase she paused. Something had changed beyond locks and keys. For years she feared losing her son. Tonight she realized she had lost him gradually long ago. What remained now was choice, and choice can be freedom. She went upstairs and slept deeply. No footsteps woke her, no drawers opened, no strangers moved overhead. Just darkness, just rest, just peace earned late but fully. When morning sunlight entered the bedroom, Lenora smiled before opening her eyes, because for the first time in years, nothing in her life had been taken overnight.